Hello everyone, welcome to Roman Just Codes. I'm Roman, and in this episode I'll continue building our Flicky home automation app. This time we'll be bringing Riverpod to start implementing the plumbing of our state management strategy, and for better decoupling of data and UI logic while we simulate data preloading in our app, more specifically in the loading page. Make sure to catch the previous videos in the series so you can catch up, or grab the link to the repo from the description for the full project. In the loading page is where I'll be loading some of the metadata this app will require in order to function properly, such as the configuration of the outlets, the list of devices available, testing for network connectivity, whatever you want. I'll make it as a simulation, and in upcoming videos we'll hook it up to the real deal. Let's proceed. So from the loading page, after we've preloaded the app's data, we want to land somewhere, sort of like a home or landing page. Let's do just that. In the landing feature, add a file called homepage.dart, and inside of it, a stateless widget. Make it simple for now. Later, we'll develop it further. Add the corresponding route for our home page. Make it at the root level for now. Later, we'll move it to its final destination. Let's first add a delay to simulate a long-running task before navigating to the home page. Use the goRouter.off with the util's main nav's current context to refer to the root navigation level and go to the home page. Don't forget to dispose of the timer. Good, it's working as expected. We'll get rid of this in a bit. Let's start creating the pieces. In the intro feature, add a providers folder. This is where the providers for this feature will live. Create a file called loadingpageproviders.dart. Let's add our first provider, a state provider of type string, since this will keep track of the messages we want to display while the data loads, notifying the user of where we are in the process. When the value of this provider changes, it will trigger a UI rebuild, just the way we want it. Let's create a view model file called loadingNotificationViewModel.dart. Create a class called loadingNotificationViewModel. This view model will contain the logic that will trigger changes in our UI based on the given state in which it is. This is of type stateNotifier, since we want to manage a more complex state logic as well as trigger other states from within this one. How will we represent the state in which our loading sequence will be at any given moment? One way to do it is creating an enum called appLoadingStates. Go to the helpers folder, add an enums.dart file. Create an enum called appLoadingStates with values corresponding to the states in which we want our loading sequence to be in: none, loading, success, or error. Back in our view model, define the state notifier type to be appLoadingState. Create the corresponding constructor, feeding a default value and a ref reference. This is what we will use to find other providers and triggering changes from here. Add a method called triggerLoading, type future of void, since we'll be simulating a long-running operation as our app moves from state to state in an asynchronous fashion. This method will first set the state to be in the loading state, which will trigger a UI rebuild and show it as loading. Now, notice how from within this view model, we make use of the ref instance to pull the loading message provider to get its notifier and change its state by assigning a proper value to it. This causes the UI to rebuild wherever the UI is listening or watching for this specific provider, which is exactly what we want. Let's add some delays to simulate some long-running tasks and continue updating the state of the loading message provider as we move from task to task. Every time we trigger a state change in a provider of type state provider, as well as this state notifier provider, whichever widget is watching, it will trigger a UI rebuild. Simple as that. Finally, wrap things up by setting the state to success. Back on our providers file, add a provider of type stateNotifier provider that encapsulates an instance of our newly created loading notification view model, which maintains a state of type appLoadingStates as shown in the signature. Return an instance, passing to it the default value of none plus the ref instance. Go to the loading page widget, and instead of doing the lengthy task simulation with the timer, let's watch our providers so we rebuild accordingly. Change this widget from a stateful widget to a consumer stateful widget, so Riverpod gives you a widget ref with which you can locate providers, watch them, etc. Watch both state provider for our messages and state notifier provider for our app loading state. Check whether the state is a success so we can navigate to the home page. Remember, this state will be changing at various intervals and triggering widget rebuilds. Let's handle the other cases. For when there's nothing loading, meaning the initial state is none, that's when we trigger the loading by calling the method trigger loading off of the loading notification view model via its provider. For when it's a success, show a check before navigating away. For when it's an error, you can show some appropriate message here. I'll go with a simple icon here as well. Now, let's change the structure of our loading page by making it a stack instead. That way we keep the logo in the center, but align the loading messages at the bottom of the page. Use an align widget aligned at the bottom center of the page. Add both the icon and the message. It's showing behind the dynamic island. Let's bring it down. Make the column's main axis size to min so as to minimize the amount of free space along the main axis. Wrap it inside a safe area widget for safety. A bit too tight. Add some vertical gap in between and also at the bottom. Now, add some color to this text widget by pulling it from the current theme's color scheme and its primary color. And why not? Let's animate the widgets in this column in a staggered fashion, using interval with a vertical sliding animation and a fading animation as such. Now, let's do a hot restart to see it from the beginning. Do some tweaking to make it look better. Later, we'll be replacing these placeholder delays with the actual implementation of each module we want to do some preloading of the data or assets accordingly. Since the success checkbox doesn't show for very long, let's add a small delay before navigating away from this page. 1 second should be enough. Hot reload again. Awesome, love the way it came out. And without virtually doing any changes, I can test all of this on the iPad mini simulator and still looks good. Check this out. Hope you all learned a thing or two about triggering UI rebuilds upon changing state in your view models and providers and using Riverpod as our preferred state management strategy in this app. I think we're ready to continue moving forward with this app. In the next video, we'll deal with all navigational aspects of this app. We'll implement nested navigation using shell routes. We'll build the bottom bar with animated icons, the side drawer, and a top app bar, all custom so we can stay true to the app's branding, its look and feel, and the style of this app. See you on the next one. Hey there, I am Roman from Roman Just Codes. I hope that you found the content of this video very useful, and if you did, make sure to like it and subscribe to this channel. You know subscribing to this channel is free, right? Thank you so much for watching.